Hi, Shorai. Yes, I like the topic that you are dealing with. I'm sure Zimbabweans can really use indigenous knowledge systems to combat climate change in several ways. For instance, starting from the way we preserve our food. If you look at the current hybrids, if you look at hybrid tomatoes, hybrid maize, they can't store for much longer if we compare to our own, open pollinated varieties as well as our small grains. Our small grains, even our groundnuts can last for decades. But if you try to store hybrids, you can't. They can't last longer. So they have a very short shelf life. So the good thing is if we go back to our food systems, which are abundant at the moment, we just don't have a market for our small grains, mpunga brown rice that is abundantly produced in Gutu wetlands, in Chivi, as well as parts of Mrewa. So if we preserve our wetlands, definitely we'll be able to deal with climate change because we'll be able to produce diverse food, including our brown rice, mpunga wedu wechivanhu wakanaka uyu. That can last for much longer compared to what we are really importing from outside. So from a shelf life perspective, indigenous knowledge systems can really provide a better solution, especially from our food system. So storage of food, it can be better done by using our indigenous knowledge, including even Fimbi. At the moment, there are no mechanism for storing sweet potatoes. But our elders, traditionally, they used to store using Fimbi, would just dig a pit, store properly, and the sweet potatoes will last for more than 12 months. At the moment, we need that because there's been an overproduction of sweet potatoes. And usually it was part of the good breeds, like local indigenous varieties of sweet potatoes would store better than what we have now. We now have German 2 and others, which are just being adulterated. So depending so much on imported seed is actually messing us up. But we think we have opportunities to go back and use our indigenous food systems as part of really combating climate change. So other ways that we can do it is to preserve our natural ecosystems. The whole nation of cutting down trees to focus on monoculture is destroying our landscapes, including even our biodiversity. So we can easily go back to our ways and stop cutting down trees. Let's move away from monoculture and embrace agroecology, which is more like really looking at the entire ecosystem. There's no need, for instance, for us to continue focusing on wheat and we spray and kill quelea birds. Traditionally, we had a way of handling quelea birds. Everyone would produce small grains. Then the quelea birds would also have something to eat. One thing that we need to be good at is to also look at wildlife, quelea birds, baboons. We have these animals which are not really kept in game reserves, like wild pigs and others, that can find their way out. These coexist with human beings. If you go to many communities, Guru, everywhere else, you find baboons, monkeys, even wild hares, tsuro. They are all found everywhere. So we really need to think in terms of how do we preserve those. We can't be killing birds because we want to produce wheat. It's wrong. So we can go easily use our indigenous knowledge of how do we coexist. What was the coexistence between our communities and wildlife? There are good models that we can do. So really, there are many ways in which indigenous knowledge can help us to combat climate change. We see so many examples. The example that I gave about storing food, which is very good. And we could even, now there is so much demand for our indigenous fruits. I can tell you that for the past few years, the demand for Nyi, Chuvu, right now Chuvu is on song. Demand for Masau, the demand for Matowe. Some of the fruits that you don't think they would have a market, they now have a market. The demand for those commodities is increasing, and these are indigenous foods. So we can use them really so that they become part of our mainstream food system. So that really we can really... So as a Zimbabwe, we have a choice. There's no reason why we should depend on monoculture or depend on a few imported food systems. It's a policy issue that needs to really look at that. Even the way we design our irrigation schemes. right now, we shouldn't be using channels, those, they call them what, canals, which are dug. For instance, if you look at Tokwe Mukosi right now, why should Tokwe Mukosi water be used to irrigate sugarcane hundreds of kilometers away from where the dam is to the low field? What about irrigating small grains in Chivi, in many other places which are close to the dam? Could easily do that so that we change our food system. So something has really to shift. We need serious shift, not just tweaking issues like what the Minister of Agriculture is doing. We cannot all say we want to do rehabilitated irrigation schemes just to produce maize or to produce cabbages. What about Nyeve? What about our all other different types of commodities? So we really have a chance to really change things. Apparently, human beings don't act on knowledge. They may know what needs to happen, but they need to be forced. So climate change is forcing us. Climate change is an opportunity for us to change our mindsets, to change the way we do things. Otherwise, there is enough for us really to transform ourselves. So yeah, in a nutshell, that's how I see indigenous knowledge helping us. Of course, there are several ways. We need to revive our own traditional leadership structures. Our chiefs, they should be more powerful than members of parliament. Why should both members of parliament just bring money from the government? They don't bring their own resources. But chiefs, headmen, they are actually custodians of our culture. So we need to give them back the power so that they are able to make decisions. So really there's a lot that we can do. So right from leadership, trying to really go back, using indigenous leadership structures, also finding ways of documenting our knowledge. Indigenous knowledge has not been properly documented. It looks like Western education systems has not been able to really capture our indigenous knowledge in ways that are really useful and sustainable. If you look at the formal education system, it focuses on Western knowledge. If you go to the universities right now, the research is mainly focusing on imported food. There's no shortage of thesis around exotic fruits, mangoes, horticulture, maize and others, as well as tobacco. But there isn't much research on mnunguru, our food systems, and all kinds of fruits that are there, including even baobab fruit. We need to be researching, doing a lot. So, yeah, I think it's a wake-up call. Climate change is a wake-up call for us to really think critically. So I was saying to the Minister of Agriculture the other day, look, why don't we create a very strong department responsible for indigenous food systems only? Because agri-tech is not good with the indigenous food. They are all promoting industrial agriculture. We should have a department just really with officers who wake up every day, with a chief director responsible for just tracking our indigenous food. What is happening to, how is it produced, what is getting extinct, how much indigenous food is going into markets, who is consuming it, what are the additives, what are the combinations, all those things. So there's a lot of knowledge out there that needs to be captured. And part of it, we're doing it, we're in the markets every day, monitoring food movement. That's where we see how indigenous food is really gaining momentum. For instance, nobody thought that madumbe and madumbe, especially all these tubers, madumbe and magogoya would be such a big force at the moment. For the past 2 years, magogoya and madumbe are commanding really a presence in the market. So we need to preserve our biodiversity where these tubers do well. So there's a lot that we can do really to deal with climate change at our own level. So really, this in a nutshell, that is it. Otherwise, thanks so much, Antitka. So we'll continue talking about some of these things. Let me know if you've got any other questions and I can be sharing with you. Otherwise, it's a very interesting area. We need to focus on that. I think it's a niche area. Do it well. If you do it well, you get a lot of funding. You can create good messages around this. This is a very important theme which is not being covered in Zimbabwe. Our media focuses on politics, ignoring bread and butter issues like environment, indigenous knowledge and others. So you are on the right track. Do it well. You have got my support 100%. Thanks so much. Have a good day.